there was a little cottage with a thatch roof where there lived a family of 3 bears. One of them was a very small baby bear. The second, a mummy bear, was a sort of middle-sized bear. And the third, Daddy Bear, was a huge sort of bear with thick black fur. Because they were all different sizes, they all had their own specially sized belongings. Baby Bear had a tiny bowl to eat his porridge with. Mummy Bear had a sort of middle-sized bowl to eat her porridge with. And Daddy Bear had a huge sort of bowl with a great big rim to eat his from. Inside their downstairs room was a big table with 3 chairs. One very tiny one for Baby Bear, a middle-sized one for Mummy Bear, and a great huge sort of chair with great big armrests for Daddy Bear. And it was just the same upstairs in the bear's bedroom. One tiny bed for Baby Bear, a middle-sized bed for Mummy Bear, and a huge bed for Daddy Bear with great big pillows for his great big head. Now, somewhere away on the other side of the forest lived a young girl called Goldilocks. Every day she took a walk going deeper and deeper into the forest. The bears liked to walk in the forest as well, especially in the mornings. Mummy Bear would get up first and make the porridge, but she always made it too hot to eat. So she would serve up the 3 bowls of porridge, and then the whole bear family would go out for a walk. One day, when the porridge was cooling in the bowls, and the bears had gone for their morning walk, Goldilocks passed by from her side of the forest and was surprised to find the bear's house was there at all. She didn't know anyone had lived so deep in the forest and went to the front door to investigate. She pulled a log alongside the house up to the front door so she could stand on it to peer through the keyhole. As she did so, the door swung open, and she was even more surprised to find the house was open and unlocked. What a lovely sight it was, all neat and tidy. And what was more, there were 3 bowls of porridge at the table, and she was so hungry. Goldilocks didn't wait to be asked. First, she tried the porridge in the huge bowl with a great big rim that belonged to Daddy Bear. "Whew, that's far too hot," she said, putting the spoon back in the bowl and moving along to the middle-sized porridge. That's far too salty," she said, tasting Mummy Bear's porridge. "Third time must be lucky," she said, as she dipped into Baby Bear's bowl. Just right this time," she said, as she polished off the whole bowl. Time to sit down," she thought, moving along to the huge chair with the great big armrests. This chair's far too hard," she said, getting up and moving to the middle-sized chair. "Oh, and this one's far too soft. There must be somewhere I can sit." Then she saw Baby Bear's chair, and as she sat down in it, the bottom fell out of it, and one of the legs snapped off like matchwood, and with a bump she landed on the ground. By now, Goldilocks was getting very tired, and so she crept upstairs to see if there was a bed to lie in. The first was a big, huge bed with big, huge pillows that were so big Goldilocks couldn't get her head on them. The second was the middling-sized bed, but that was no good either, because there wasn't enough blankets on it. Once again, the tiny bear's bed was perfect. It was so warm and snuggly that Goldilocks fell fast asleep as soon as her head touched the pillow. Goldilocks didn't know, as she fell asleep, that the 3 bears were about to return from their walk. As soon as they came through the front door, they saw that the porridge had been touched. "Who's been eating my porridge?" growled the huge Daddy Bear with the thick black fur, scratching his head with displeasure. "And who's been eating my porridge?" mumbled Mummy Bear in her middle-sized sort of voice. But most upset of all was Baby Bear. "Who's been eating my porridge?" he squeaked in his tiny Baby Bear voice. "There's nothing left at all."
"They could have had anything if only they had asked,"
growled Daddy Bear, looking around to see if anything else had been touched. Then he saw the chairs with their cushions scattered all over the floor.
Who's been sitting in my chair?
Growled Daddy Bear. And who's been sitting in my chair? Said Mummy Bear. Who's been sitting in my chair? Said Baby Bear in his tiny baby squeaky voice. Whoever it was has broken the bottom of my chair and broken the leg off like matchwood. Daddy Bear was beginning to get quite angry by now.
If only they had waited, he said. They could have had their very own seat.
They looked at each other and thought they'd better check upstairs as well to make a thorough search.
Who's been sleeping in my bed?
Said Daddy Bear as he found his huge big pillows had been moved. And who's been sleeping in my bed? Said Mummy Bear as she found someone had moved the few blankets that she had. Then the Baby Bear looked inside his bedroom door. He checked that his pillows were all there and that his blankets were still there. And then he noticed that on his pillow was a head of a girl with beautiful golden hair that shouldn't have been there at all. It wasn't there when I got up, he squeaked. Whoever has been sleeping in my bed is still there. She's in my bed! She's in my bed! Squeaked Baby Bear as Mummy and Daddy Bear came in to see what was going on. Get out! Get out! Squeaked the little bear, which finally woke Goldilocks up. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, she said as she woke up startled. I think I'm in the wrong house. And with that, she threw back the covers and jumped straight out of the bedroom window into the garden below, knocking down the flowers that she found. The three bears looked out of the window as Goldilocks ran back into the forest.
I wonder she would have stayed if I'd asked her nicely, growled Daddy Bear thoughtfully.
Now we'll never ever know, said Mummy Bear. The last word was left to Baby Bear. Good! There was a boy called Jack, who lived with his mother in a tiny cottage in the country. Jack and his mother were very poor, and the only thing they owned was a cow called Milky White. Jack and his mother relied on her to keep them alive, but one day Milky White gave no milk at all. Not a drop was to be had. "What shall we do?" said Jack's mother. "We can't live without her milk. We should have to sell her and live off the money to buy food. Jack, you have to take her to the market." So off he went, leading Milky White along the road to market. Soon he met an old man who was sitting beside the road. "Good morning," said the man. "Where are you going?" "To market," said Jack, "to sell my cow and make a fortune on her." "I'll swap these 5 beans for your cow," said the old man. "I can get much more than that in the market," said Jack. "Aha! But these are magic beans," said the old man. "Magic?" questioned Jack. "Yes, magic. Plant them at dusk, and by dawn they will have grown through the sky," said the old man with a smile. Jack ran all the way home with the 5 beans clasped firmly in his hand. When he told his mother what had happened, she was furious, and she gathered the beans and threw them to the ground and sent Jack straight to bed. The next morning, Jack couldn't believe his eyes. There, in the garden, the beans had grown right through the sky. The old man was right, he thought. The beans are magic. He jumped from his bedroom window straight onto the beanstalk and started to climb. Up and up he went, higher and higher through the clouds, until suddenly he found himself at the gates of a huge castle. Jack knocked at the door as loudly as he could.
woman came to the door. She was the wife of a giant. "Have you anything to eat?" asked Jack. The giant's wife took pity on Jack and took him to the kitchen for some food. Jack had hardly started to eat when he heard the thump, thump, thump of the giant's footsteps approaching. "Quick, hide in the oven," said the giant's wife, as the giant burst through the kitchen door. Jack just made it to the oven in time. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." He growled and muttered, "There's a boy in here, and I want him for my breakfast." But the giant's wife said, "No, dear, that's just an old carcass you can smell. Eat your breakfast I've prepared." The giant mumbled and grumbled some more and started to eat his breakfast, and he counted out his bags of gold coins as he ate. Jack was watching all this from behind the oven door, and when the time was right, he slipped out of the oven, grabbed one of the bags of gold, and ran from the castle as fast as he could. When he got to the top of the beanstalk, he threw down the bag of gold into his mother's garden and climbed down after it, exhausted. The next morning, up he went once more, and again knocked on the castle door. The giant's wife appeared and took Jack into the kitchen for some food. Thump, thump, thump came the giant's footsteps again, bursting into the kitchen. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Wife!" bellowed the giant. "There's a boy in here, and I want him for my breakfast." This time Jack knew where to hide and made straight for the oven. The giant grumbled and growled a lot louder this time and sat down to eat as he watched his golden hen laying golden eggs. Quick as a flash, Jack came out of the oven, grabbed the golden hen, and ran as fast as he could to the beanstalk. "You must stay away from the beanstalk," said his mother. "It's far too dangerous, Jack." "But Mother," he whined, "look at what it's brought us. A large bag of gold and a hen that lays golden eggs." It wasn't long before Jack went up the beanstalk for the third time, and this time he didn't hide in the oven, but in a copper pot. Thump, thump, thump came the giant's footsteps once more. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." The giant headed straight for the oven, thinking that Jack was hiding there. But he was not to be found, as he was hiding in a copper pot. "Wife, bring me my golden harp," growled the giant as his wife carried the magic harp to the table. "Sing!" said the giant, and the harp sang his favourite tune. As the harp lulled the giant to sleep, Jack moved swiftly. He jumped out of the pot and grabbed the harp and ran to the beanstalk. "Master! Master!" cried the harp as Jack carried it away. "Save me! Save me!" Wild as the giant followed, stumbling as he ran. Jack made it to the beanstalk first and scrambled back to his mother's garden with the harp. "Quick, Mother! Get an axe!" he cried as he climbed down and started to hack away at the beanstalk. There wasn't much time. The giant was right behind him, but soon the beanstalk started to topple, and down it came with the giant at the top. He fell to the ground and broke his head. And that was the end of the beanstalk. But Jack didn't need to climb anymore. He had his bag of gold, his hen that laid golden eggs, and his golden harp, and together he and his mother became rich and happy from that day on.
lived a lonely prince called Prince Jabberlad. Every day, as the sun breathed fresh warmth into the walls of Prince Jabberlad's castle, high on the hills overlooking his kingdom, the prince would climb the stairs to the highest turret and stand alone with a small tear in the corner of his eye. He had no real reason to be so sad. He was rich and handsome and had so many friends, and his mother the queen and his father the king did everything they could to keep him happy. Day after day, week after week, and month after month, Prince Jabberlad could be seen standing alone in his tent, until one day the princess decided the time had come to wipe away the prince's tear and make him smile once more. Nanny gathered up her skirts and climbed the stairs to the turret. One by one, slowly but surely, puffing and panting, she climbed. "These steps will be the end, Nanny," she puffed and huffed as she reached the top. "There's someone not 100 miles from me who's being rather stupid," she mumbled as she reached the prince's side. "A good dose of syrup is what you need." Prince Jabberlad turned to Nanny Petunia and sighed. "Oh, Nanny, I'm so lonely. I wish I had a beautiful princess of my own. Someone I could love, and someone who could love me." "There's none so blind as them who won't see," said Nanny crossly. "Look out from this turret. There's many a fine princess out there for you. So come on, Jabberlad, my boy," she said. "Pull yourself together and pull up your socks, and we'll soon find you a princess." The prince agreed at last. Nanny was right. There must be a princess for him somewhere out there in his kingdom. So down he climbed from his turret and mounted his splendid horse and rode out of the castle's big wooden gates. Out he rode in search of his princess. Just like Nanny had told him, there were plenty of princesses to be found. Everywhere the Jabberlad went, he would find a new. There were princesses with golden hair and princesses with brown hair, princesses with little crowns and princesses with very big crowns. But from all the princesses that Jabberlad met, he couldn't find the one he was looking for anywhere. So back he came to his castle on his big, tired horse and was very, very sad because he did so long for a real princess. Nanny Petunia was cross again. "Very particular we are, aren't we?" she grumbled. "It's top brick of a chimney or nothing for you, isn't it?" "But Nanny," replied the lonely prince, "how am I to know that any of them is a real princess? There's something not quite right about all the princesses I've met." Days started to pass by slowly again, and the prince returned to his turret, and the tear returned to his eye, until one day there was such a terrible storm blowing up that the prince couldn't stand on his turret anymore. The rain came pouring down, and the lightning flashed, and the thunder rattled around the hills. The lonely prince huddled by the fire with his mother the queen, and his father the king, and Nanny Petunia, sewing a new button on his shirt. All of a sudden, there was a knock at the old castle gate, and the king, the queen, the prince, and Nanny stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the gate. "Who could be out in a night like this?" moaned the king, as the knocking came again. "And who could it be that comes to see a king in such a storm as this?" "The biggest doors open to the littlest keys," quipped Nanny Petunia. "You'd better see who it is." The old king pushed himself up from his fireside throne and stumbled over to open the gate as the knocking came louder still. There, standing in the window, as the old gate creaked open, was a beautiful princess, wet to the skin with water running all down her hair and her clothes and into her shoes and out at the toes. Prince Jabberlad's eyes opened as wide as cartwheels as he saw her, and he ran to the gate to help her inside. "What's your name?" asked the prince warmly. "My name is Princess Lucilla," she replied. "I live in the kingdom of Eberron, and I'm so terribly lost and so terribly tired." "But are you a real princess?"
asked Jabberlud. Of course I am, said Lucilla. We'll soon see about that, snapped the old Queen and Nanny Petunia. They said no more, but shuffled out of the room and made upstairs for the bedroom, mumbling and grunting as they went. Up in the bedroom, the Queen and Nanny took off all the bedclothes, and at the very bottom of the bed they put a little tiny pea all on its own. Then they shuffled off again to a big old cupboard and took out 20 of the softest mattresses they could find, and 20 of the softest feather pillows that had ever been made, and laid them on top of the pea. That's where the princess who said she was a real princess was to sleep for the night. Prince Jabberlad could hardly sleep a wink all night long. He was so excited about meeting the princess the next morning, and so looking forward to finding out if she was a real princess. As the sun rose, the prince did not climb the stairs to the turret, but hurried down to the great hall for breakfast. The king, the queen, the prince, and Nanny Petunia were all sitting there waiting as Princess Lucilla arrived. "How did you sleep?" asked the queen excitedly. There was a long pause as they held their breath, waiting for the princess's answer. "Oh, so very badly," yawned the princess. "I hardly slept a moment all night long. Heaven knows what was in that bed, but I was lying on something so lumpy that I'm simply black and blue all over." After so much time, the smile beamed back all over the prince's face. This time he knew he had found a real princess, because only a real princess could have such tender skin to have felt such a tiny pea all on its own, under 20 mattresses and 20 feather pillows. Nanny Petunia smiled a contented smile and turned back to her breakfast. "Patience is a virtue is a grace. Put them together and you've got a pretty face." And so the young Prince Jabberlud and the beautiful Princess Lucilla were married and were never lonely again. And the pea was sent to a museum, where it's still to be seen. Unless it's been eaten by mice. Down in the farmyard, the animals were all rushing about, making quite a commotion. The cockerel had ruffled up his feathers and jumped on a hay bale to make an announcement. "Cock-a-doodle-doo! It's time," crowed the cockerel, "for Mother Duck's nestful of eggs to hatch. If there's anything she should want, we must help her and her little ducklings to have it." Mother Duck had made her nest a little way away from the farmyard, where it was peaceful and quiet, down by the old mill pond. At long last, one by one, the eggs started to move about and come to life with a cheep, cheep, as they burst open to let little fluffy ducklings out. Mother Duck looked under her feathers to see if all her eggs had hatched. "Oh, goodness," she said, "there's still one egg left. The largest one is still there. How much longer is it going to be?" The little ducklings were getting impatient. They wanted to get out into the water and learn to swim, but Mother Duck was determined to wait just a little bit longer. At last, the big egg rolled over and a little crack appeared. "Cheep, cheep," came the cry as the last young one tumbled out onto the dock leaf. All the ducks and all the ducklings stopped their paddling and stopped their simpering to look at the last arrival. He looked so large and ugly that they all stopped and stared. "Ooh, ooh, I've never seen anything like it," hooted the owl. "That's not even a turkey chick," quacked the old duck. "Still, he'll have to learn to swim just like the others."
Soon it was time to meet all the other families of ducks in the other pond. Mother Duck introduced them one by one, and very soon the young ones were splashing about with all the other ducklings, until it came to the ugly grey duckling. "Quack, quack, 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 quack! We don't want him in our pond," said one of them as they flew across the water to bite him in the neck. "Oh, leave him alone," quacked Mother Duck angrily. "He won't hurt anybody." "What pretty children you have," said the old duck. "All except that ugly grey one. He'll have to go." However hard the Mother Duck insisted, the other ducks quacked louder and louder. Even the ugly duckling's own brothers and sisters started laughing at him and pecking him and teasing him and spitting at him. Even the farmer's daughter, who had come out of the farmhouse to see what all the noise was about, didn't want him and kicked him over the hedge. "Quack! It's all because I'm so ugly," cried the duckling as he limped off into the undergrowth to find somewhere to hide. He walked and walked until he was completely exhausted, and then flopped down in the marsh and closed his eyes and cried himself to sleep. Days and months passed by, and the ugly duckling grew thinner and thinner as he grew hungrier and hungrier. But he was too frightened to come out of his hiding place in case anyone saw how ugly he was. He'd got used to living on his own by now. The leaves were turning to brown as autumn set in, and the sky above had a frosty look. He had found himself a bundle of leaves and made himself a nest to keep warm until winter had gone. And from his den he watched the other ducks and the swans flying about so gracefully, wishing so hard that he could join them. One day, as spring approached, a young group of swans settled in the water near where he had made his nest. He wanted to join them so much. "Oh, I suppose they'll kill me," he thought. "But I've got nothing to lose. It's better to be killed by them than to be pecked by hens and kicked by the farmer's daughter." He jumped to his feet and paddled out to the group of swans who had ruffled up their feathers and swam quickly towards him. "Yes, kill me," said the ugly duckling as he bowed his head to the water, waiting to die. "Why should we kill you?" said the swans. "You are the most beautiful swan we have ever seen. Look at the reflection in the water, and you'll see." And what did he see in the reflection? He was no longer an ugly duckling, no longer a clumsy, grey, unattractive bird. He himself was a beautiful swan. "I'm a swan!" he cried, as tears of joy rolled down his beak. "I'm a swan! I'm a swan!" And the other swans swam round and round and stroked him with their beaks. He sighed a deep sigh, ruffled his feathers, and held his head high as he sang.